Hello and welcome to our video tutorial. Forgive my voice, it's about to go. In this video tutorial we're going to explore creating our scoring system on a new scene. So I'm just going to set up my middle mouse button. And there we are. Okay, so at the moment we have a head-up display. And we have our scene, and we are going to press P to play, and we don't have our score appearing. But let's just go back to the start. I'm going to delete this head-up display, so I've only got a single scene, and this is sort of my starting point for this tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this camera first. At the moment, when I look through it by pressing 0 on the numpad, I can see the game, but I cannot see it very well. So let me turn on some screencasting. So at least, even if you can't understand my voice, you can see what keys I'm pressing. Okay, so to move this camera, to reset it, I'm going to press Alt or Alt G, which is remove location, remove rotation, and I'm going to give it a height of 30. It looks like it hasn't moved, but it has in fact moved up quite high. I'm going to look through the camera, and there it is there. So this is positioned correctly. Now I'm going to create a new scene. So I'm going to call this level 1. So new scene. And there's nothing in this scene, absolutely nothing. So I'm going to add a camera, I'm going to add a piece of text, and that's going to be my score. Now when I look through the camera, I can't see it, the text that is. So I'm going to select my camera and rename it Hood Cam, and I'm going to take my text, and again I'm going to reposition this at -20, so quite far away. I'm going to look through the camera, and then I'm going to position it in the top right corner. So 5.5 and 3.5. Now to edit this text, I'm going to go into edit mode and delete the word text and replace it with the number 0. Over here I'm going to add a game property and change it to an integer, because I want this to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's why I want it to be an integer. I also want to give it a piece of logic. I want to say when you receive the message, player 1, because player 1 is going to be on this side, and the score of player 1 should be above player 1. When you receive the message, player 1, change this property text. You want to add a value of 1 to it. So every time we score, we'll send the message, player 1, and this will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what these will do. So this is done for now. I'll come back and I'll add in player 2 in a second. So let's go back to level 1. Actually, sorry, let's call this HUD, head-up display. Back to level 1, and at the moment I'm sending a message, but I'm sending the message to player 1 score. So I want to send this to the text. So let's see where that text is and what it's called. And it's called text. So we'll call it player 1 S. Okay. So that is now the name of this object. So when I go back to level 1, I want to send it to player 1S. That's the object I want to send it to. So let's just go through this, the logic of it. The ball will come into the game, will bounce, and then will hit this wall. So when there's collision with this wall, it will send a message. The message will be player 1, and it will send it to the text object on the other layer. And the logic on that says when I receive the message player 1, add 1 to my score. So let's see if that works. P, play the game, spacebar. Okay, now I can't see if it's working. can see that my two scores there aren't working because they're on my empty. So let's remove them. And I need to go back now, or I need to, on this level, with my game controller here, I'm going to add an always sensor. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add scene, add scene overlay, head-up display. So let me just explain that to you. So what this does here is, this is always, so while the game is playing, always show this. And what is this? This is the other scene. So add scene overlay. So there's a function built into Blender to allow us put one scene on top of another. So now let's press P. I can see the score. And I score 1. And it hits the wall again, I score 2. 3. And my ball is gone. Okay, so that works. Excellent. In order to get my second score to work, I'm going to take this object here, and go Shift D, duplicate it, and move it across here on my x-axis. I'm going to call it player 2 score. Minus 20, so minus 6.5, just for consistency. Now, when I go back to, when I go back to my level 1, this object here, this wall, needs to send a message not to the game controller, but to player 2 score, and send the message player 2. Now we duplicated this, so this works, but this doesn't. It has to get the message player 2. Now, let's go back and let's go P. So score, score. So both scores are working. And we want to say, when we reach a score of 3, the game is over. Okay, I'm just going to turn off my show debug properties. So I'm going to go back to my head-up display, and on this one here I'm going to say, when the property text is equal to 3, do something. And at the moment I'm just going to say game, quick game. And this logic here I'm going to repeat on this one. So I'm going to say, when the property text equals 3, quick game. So we go to the game actuator, quick game. So let's just look at it again. So when this property here, text, which is the number that is displayed here, when it reaches 3, quit the game. So now let's go back, press play, and see that in action. Score of 1, 2, game over. So that's, very simple. And for now, that's all we're going to do. So this is basically what we covered in class. So we've added a head-up display, and then we've added that head-up display in as a scene overlay so that we can see our score in the game without this game being able to interact with that piece of graphics. So no matter what the ball does, I can't, if I change the lighting here, the head-up display will remain the same. So that's a very important aspect of the head-up display being on a different level. Okay, so file save, and that's enough for now.